Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to our live question and answer session for the month of March, brought to you by Australia Immigration Matters. My name is Umar Sheikh, as most of you know about me. We will be running the show once again this month, and we will be taking up your questions, and we will try to cover most of the questions, most of the queries we will be getting today in our live session. Before beginning, I would like to confirm from you guys whether you can hear me well, whether you can see me well. Please confirm in the chat box. Is my voice clear? Am I audible? Please confirm in the chat box. Okay, great, great. Thank you for your feedback, guys. Thank you for your feedback. So this has been a very happening month with regards to Australian immigration processes, with regards to the changes. So we will be talking about some changes which happened, which are important for you to know. With respect to student visa applications, with respect to the visas related to post-study work rights, and also with respect to the skilled migration cases as this financial year's allocations are going to close and it's almost exhausting. So we will be taking a few questions related to those as well. At the end of the session, I will cover these two topics which could be important to you. So it's good for you guys to stay connected till the end of the session so that you should know what's happening in Australia immigration sphere. And also, I would like to discuss about the possibility of next year's allocations and the state's behavior and the preferences which the states will be applying to issue the pre-invitations. So, without further ado, I think we can begin with our questions. If there are any questions, you can post in our chat box. Meanwhile, I can cover the topic of student visa application changes. So, as you guys know, that on 23rd of March, the new rule of genuine student requirement has been applied. Previously, the genuine temporary entrant requirement (GTE) requirement was applicable, and the applications which were lodged before 23rd of March for the student visa would be processed as per GTE requirement, whereas the applications which are applied, which are lodged on or after 23rd of March, the new genuine student requirement would be imposed. Now, what is genuine student requirement? It's basically, to be honest, it's a revamping of the existing genuine temporary entrant requirement. But in the genuine temporary entrant requirement, you are supposed to write a 300-word statement to prove that you are a temporary entrant in Australia and you will complete your studies. And then after completing your studies, either you will be employed with some employer in Australia or you will go back to your home country. Now they have given a structure to this 300-word statement by asking specific questions. So there is a form you have to fill by answering the questionnaire in the genuine student case. Now, furthermore, they have also changed the English language requirements for the student visa applications, and they have increased the IELTS requirement, the requirement for the IELTS bands by zero point 0.5 across the applications. For example, if you are applying for a regular course of a postgraduate higher education, then you have to prove that you have 6.5 overall IELTS score. Similarly, for the other cases as well, wherever it was required as 6.5 earlier, now it will be required 7. So they have increased the IELTS band score by zero point 0.5 from 23rd March onward. So these two changes are critical for you to know if you are applying for a student visa, that you have to submit now a genuine student questionnaire completed, filled in the form which they have provided on their website, and you have to fulfill their English language requirement, which is increased by zero point 0.5 or equivalent in the English language test, whichever you are applying for, either IELTS or PTE or whichever you are doing. So the questions are coming, so we can start taking up your questions, and at the end of the session, we will be touching upon the topic of upcoming changes, upcoming new visa category, skills in demand visa, and also with respect to the states' preferences, how they are behaving, how they will be behaving after this Easter break, and for the rest of the financial year, and also for the next financial year, what's happening in Australia. So let's start taking up the questions. So we have our first question from Love. The question is that, sir, I have lodged 491 skilled regional application on 25th of March 2023. 261314 is your occupation code, and status is still received. Department has reduced processing time to 12 months. Any idea when I could expect grant? Oh, it's a very good question. To be honest, the department has recently reduced its 491 processing time to 12 months from 17 months, which is a good news for the 491 visa applicants. You applied on 25th of March, and today we are talking about 30th of March. So already you have crossed the 12-month mark, and I believe you should be expecting your visa grant in the month of April, hopefully, because even if they have reduced the time of 90% of the applications to 12 months, still it can take like 1 or 2 months for the rest of the 10% of the applications, because it's an average. You need to understand that 90% of the applicants are getting the visa granted for 491 in 12 months. It's an average, whereas some applicants of high priority occupations are getting in like 6 months, and some can still be getting in 14 or 15 months. So it's an average. So you should be hopeful to get it in April, or maximum in May, in a couple of months. So let's take up the next one. It's from Sidagni Srikant. Hi Umar, how are you? My currently working as an accountant in a reputation company from past 2 years, and I have currently 90 points for 189 living in SW Sydney. What are chances for 190 and 189? So you are an onshore in Sydney, and you are an accountant. So accountant general is a good occupation to have, and we have seen invites by NSW, Victoria, Western Australia, even QLD for this occupation. And your points are, to be honest, very good. If you're talking about 90 points for 189, it means you have 95 points for 190. So you should stay hopeful. I'm not sure when did you submit your EY, because EY submission date also matters, and there are many applicants who would be waiting before you. So good luck to receive a pre-invite. It all depends upon the NSW next invitation round, which is expected in a couple of weeks or so. There should be one round at least for 491 and 190 for NSW in the month of April, after which I think they will close for this financial year. So good luck for that. If not in this financial year, you will definitely be getting a pre-invite in the next financial year, at the start of next financial year. Let's take up the next question. Is from Chaitanya M. Umar Bhai, what would be the impact of CSOL on MLT, SSL, STSOL, and ROL? It's a very good question. I think I will be discussing further about this topic, but quick answer for you is that the COSOL is called Core Skills Occupation List. It has nothing to do with skilled migration category 189190491. For the time being, this is understood. It is understood that it has nothing to do with skilled migration visa category. It has all to do with the employer sponsored visa category. When we talk about 482, now the temporary skill shortage 482 will be replaced with skills in demand visa, which is also an employer sponsored visa, which will have three pathways. I will be talking about this topic at the end of this session in detail, but in short, you need to understand that the CSOL is one of those pathways, is the occupation list of one of those pathways of skills in demand visa, which has all to do with employer sponsored stream and nothing to do with skilled migration stream. However, having said that, it is possible that Jobs and Skills Australia, which is the independent authority tasked by the government of Australia to come up with a revised list of high priority, medium priority, and low priority occupations. So they might be taking a reference of CSOL to revise the rest of the occupation list, which you have mentioned, which are MLTSSL, STSOL, and ROL list. So we will be talking in detail about the skills in demand visa at the end of this session. So stay tuned till the end of this session. This is important for you to know that what are the impacts of the new visa category coming up in Australia immigration sphere. Let's take up the next one. It's from Manoj is asking, what is the chance of a software engineer with 80 points offshore for 1190 for all states except WA? Manoj, so software engineer is definitely a very good occupation, but it's also a highly competitive occupation. You need to understand, and you can check from EOI skills like dashboard data as well, that there are a lot of software engineers who are waiting for a pre-invite at 85 points or 80 points for 190, like from much time. So you need to understand that to have good chances of invite for a software engineer occupation from all the states except WA, you need to reach up to 85 points. So that's my recommendation. So try to increase your points by 5 points if you can, because this is a very high competition for software engineer. Else you can try for an alternate occupation code from ACS, which could be a developer programmer or ICT business analyst, but it depends upon your work experience profile as well. So let's take up the next one. It's from Asad. The question is, I lodged application back in November 23. It is showing further assessment since then. What are the chances of having visa granted in this year? Occupation is electrical engineer. So Asad, if I am not sure which visa subclass did you lodge in the month of November, but typically you should expect a grant or outcome of your visa in 12 months, not less than 12 months, as per the current performance of Department of Home Affairs and the immigration visa officers. So you can expect in the month of November or December this year, but even if it is in further assessment, because it can be in further assessment even because of a completion of a biometrics verification, if it is a 491 visa, or a small S56 request initially if you have completed. So it doesn't matter much until and unless your occupation is a priority occupation, such as a healthcare occupation or an education related occupation or a social services related occupation. Only in that case it can happen that you can get an invite even in less than 6 months. But other than that, you can expect in 12 to 13 months from the date of your lodgement. Now, let's take up the next question. Is from Namal. Namal is asking, will the English competency levels be changed for skilled migration too? Well, Namal, no. I think the English language proficiency levels are being changed for student visa applications and for the post-study or temporary graduate visa applications, for example, 485 and 476. But for skilled migration, they are not planning to further change it. However, it is anticipated that they might be giving higher points weightage to the superior level of English or to proficient level of English as compared to competent level of English when they will be coming up with the revamping or resetting of their points tested wise. So this is possible. We will be talking about in our next live question and answer session when the information, when the official information will start coming up regarding the change in points test. Let's take up the next one. Is from Sharad Singh, and Sharad is asking, I have a diploma in mechanical and a degree in electrical electronics, but issue is while with diploma I have 9 years experience but don't have evidence of 3 initial years, and for degree it's 1.9 years. What should I consider? I didn't understand your question completely, but I think you are asking that if you have if you don't have the evidence of the initial 3 years of your experience, then and the evidence include like your reference letters and the payment evidence. If you don't have these two important things, then obviously you cannot claim that 3 years period in your EOI under the employment section, even if it is after completion of your studies. Number two, I think you are asking how to for degree it is 1.9 years. So you have, if you are using your diploma in mechanical as your skills assessed occupations education level, then you have to follow the work experience which is post qualification as per the advice of the assessing authority. So I am not sure what's have you completed your skills assessment, have you got your positive outcome? If you have got your positive outcome, you must have seen the what is the date deemed skilled for your occupation. Otherwise, if you have done it from Engineers Australia, you can claim the work experience complete started after your education relevant qualification. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Shehbaz Naeem. Sir, pharmacy technician 65 points, any chance? Okay, so pharmacy technicians, I think I will talk about this pharmacy technicians and retail and hospital and industrial pharmacists together as a whole, because it's been asked a lot in our group as well, that what's going to happen with the pharmacists, because I understand that the pharmacists are not getting much pre-invites, although it's linked to healthcare, but still they are waiting for pre-invites from long. And to be honest, the 65 points are not enough for a good chance of pharmacy technician. You should have like 80 plus points for 190 and 80 or 90, around 90 points for 491. So this is my advice. If you want to have a positive hope for pharmacy technicians, score or at least 80 points in your EOI for 190. Otherwise, the chances are very, very low as per the trend of invitation rounds this year. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Chaitanya M. Chaitanya M. Now Chaitanya M is asking, when can we expect Nati to be phased out? This is expected to be covered in age and experience, and indication expectation on new thresholds in age and experience brackets in future format. Okay, so so your question has two parts. So let's talk about the Nati phasing out first. So Nati is one of the translator and interpreter test for your native language from English, and it contributes 5 points to your UI. But so you need to understand that even if Australian government is planning to phase out Nati in their next financial year, because it is part of their future reforms as per the migration strategy, still they will be announcing a cut-off date before phasing it out. So first of all, it will happen as they did for TOEFL English language test, that if they will phase it out with a cut-off date, they will be still be considering the 5 points contribution in the EUI before that cutoff date for the applicants, and for the new test takers after that cutoff date, the 5 points might not be considered. So in this case, we can just anticipate that the Nati may be phased out by the start of next calendar year. This is my anticipation. There is no official word about it, but we will bring all the updates related to this in our Facebook group for you people in the next financial year, as the official word will be there. So so the second part of your question is that what is going to happen with the age and experience bracket point. So I believe that Australia is thinking to um, bring more slabs in age to give chances to people who are like near to 30. And so in that case, we are not sure that how they will be making new slabs of the age brackets. On the other hand, experience brackets, I think they are going to keep it same. They might be giving more weightage to experience and education and English language as compared to other factors such as study in Australia, or study in regional area, or NATI points, or say partner skills points. But they might be changing the calibration or the balancing of the points among these factors for the EOI perspective. So now let's take up the next one. It's from Manoj. Do you think more people will apply for ACS after a drastic increase in the fees and 70% reduction in seat allocation? Yes, I think Manoj, the point is that whoever has a good profile, whoever can score 85 or more points in the EOI, and whoever has good experience, a relevant experience, and a high demand occupation, they would definitely be applying for the ACS skills assessment, because you do not have a choice. If you are planning to migrate to Australia, you do not have a choice except to follow the rules and the principles and the fee structure of the skills assessment authority. So if even if ACS is going to increase its skills assessment fee in the mid of April, and the seat allocation is being reduced by 70%, we are not sure whether the seat allocation will still be reduced in the next financial year as well. So the people who will be willing, who will be have a level of EOI, they will still keep on applying for the ACS skills assessment, because it will be giving them a hope, a chance to migrate to Australia. And also Also, this increase in fee is coming up with a faster processing time and the chance of selecting three ENSCO occupation codes together in a single application. So now let's take up the next one is from Dhrenya. What are the requirements if legally married but partner wouldn't be included in the application? Only main applicant plus kids only. Well, it's simple. You have to submit your EOI as the married status, and you have to provide the details of your number of family members in the EOI as per your actual status. For example, you're talking about one, let's suppose you have two kids and a husband, then you will, sorry, you have two kids and your partner will be added up in your EOI as the count of family members. But when you will be applying your visa application, you can say that your partner is a non-migrating member of your family, and your migrating members of the family include your kids only. So this is possible that you can keep your whole family structure in your EOI and still do not apply for one of the members at the visa application stage. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Mubashir. When the new migration strategy comes into effect, what will happen to the 189 190 visas that have been lodged before the application of new migration strategy? Will people have to apply again? Well, the new migration strategy is not something which is going to come all together on a single date. So they will be bringing up the changes gradually. For example, the change with respect to the student visa application, which I was mentioning about at the start of this session. This is part of the new migration system. So they are making the changes and implementing and announcing the changes one by one, and they started from the temporary visa cases. For example, student visa applications, student guardian visa applications, and temporary graduate visa applications, and the 476 visa which people were getting from like skilled graduate visa. Similarly, post study work visa applications. After making the changes with respect to these temporary visas and announcing the skills in demand visas, which will be targeted towards the people who are currently working in Australia on a temporary visa, for example a 482 or 485, to give them a chance to convert their visa into a PR pathway. After that, there could be a chance of bringing up the changes with respect to the points test, which is directly linked to the skilled migration. So even if you have applied now and the points test changes are implemented by the end of this year, calendar year, or maybe the start of the next calendar year, you will still be applicable, you will still be eligible in the new system as well, because your points will be restructured as per the new point system. There is not going to be a massive change altogether in your EOI. Even if they will ask, the maximum they can do is they can ask you to submit the EOI once again as per the new system. But these are all anticipations. We do not know how they are going to bring up the change, because this is not going to be easy for them as well, because it's not like a policy change. This is not like a simple policy change. It also involves the change with respect to their digital infrastructure and the IT system which is working behind all this EOI and the nomination and everything. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Asad Afzal. Please share suitable states for electronics engineer and which are best visa to consider. Well, the most suitable state for electronics engineer as per this year's invitation round strength is Victoria. So if you have like 85, 90, 95 points in total for your 190, including state nomination points, you have a good chance of invite for electronics engineer. Let's take up the next one. Is from Madhuri. The question is that I lodged my UI on 8th of March, which is approximately what is the approximate processing time to get EOI? Well, I think you are talking about the invitation. So there is no processing time, average processing time to receive a pre-invite. It all depends upon your EOI total points, your occupation, your EOI submission date, your English language points, your work experience points, and then the state's invitation rounds. So there are many factors involved. If you have submitted in the month of March, you should, and if your occupation is like priority occupation and you have like a good enough points, then you can expect invite even in the next invitation round. But it all depends upon these factors. Now let's take up the next one. Is from JP. Sir, if someone has filled single in EOI and before getting invitations, once one gets married, so can he still claim single points without making changes in EOI? No, it's strictly a big no. If you are married and you have registered your marriage, then you have to immediately update your EOI by changing the status from single to married. Otherwise, if you will get a pre-invite and if you haven't registered, if you haven't updated your EOI, it will become a problem for you, because Department of Home Affairs will get to know the date of your marriage later at any stage, and they can even after granting you visa, they can cancel the visa even if you are onshore. So this is a big mistake if you are going to, if you are not updating your EOI as per your actual circumstances. Now, let's take up the next one. Is from Mubashir. The question is that will there be any rounds for 189? Well, Mubashir, there could be a round of 189 because they are still left with some allocations for 189 invites. So I believe there could be a round of 189 in the month of May, but not sure whether they will include all the occupations. They might be doing a round for priority occupations only, as they did in the month of December. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Hamda Aslam. I am a retail pharmacy. Recently launched 190 at 70 points. Will update soon for my spouse. So total will be 80 points. What are my chances? Well, if you're talking about 80 points without state points, then you have a good chance for retail pharmacists. But you need to understand one thing, that the retail pharmacists and hospital pharmacists are not getting much invites in this financial year as compared to last financial year. Hopefully, it will be a better trend in the next financial year. So you can hope for a possible chance of invite, possibility of invite in the next financial year for your occupation if you have 80 plus points for 190. And you need to apply in all the states in which your occupation is valid to maximize your chances. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Arun. Arun is asking that my COVID visa was granted on 23rd of March. It will expire on 23rd of September. Which visa would you suggest me in order to stay onshore? Student visa. Well, now, this, Arun, you need to understand one thing, that recently the department is planning. A department is almost has almost planned to implement this change, that if you are on a COVID visa 408, temporary visa, temporary activity visa 408 subclass, or a temporary graduate visa, for example, 476 or 485, or on a visitor visa 600 601, you will not be able to apply for a student visa while being onshore. You have to go back to your home country. You will have to travel to your home country and apply for the student visa from offshore. This is one of the changes which are going to impact your case. Secondly, if you are on a COVID visa and you have work rights, you should try to find a job in your nominated occupation, or even in any occupation, to be eligible to stay in Australia on onshore, on some employer sponsored visa. You need to find a job to secure a visa for sure from a registered sponsor. So this is a possibility. Otherwise, you need to go to travel back offshore to apply for a student visa. And the third possibility will be skilled migration visa if you have good points and occupation skills assessment done. Sidagni have confirmed that I submitted my EOIs in the month of March 2023. So fine, that's fine. So Adnan, we have next question is Adnan from Adnan Ali. I have lodged EOI 491 on 14th of October 2023 in all regional territories, and occupation of farm manager versus expected ITA arrives this year and visa grant later on months. Well, you need to wait for a possible pre-invite from the states where you have submitted EOI for your occupation of farm manager. You can expect a possibility of a pre-invite from the major states which have agricultural target sector, for example, New South Wales and Victoria, and all depends upon the receipt of a pre-invite. So no one can give you an expected time to receive an ITA. It all depends upon the invitation rounds and their consideration of the agricultural sector's occupation in their invitation round. And once you are invited, once you have submitted your visa, you can expect to get the response and the outcome of your visa in like 12 to 13 months. So that is the current possibility of your case. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Kesh S. I have gained 85 points for 491 as a mechanical engineer, and I launched EOI in January this year. Can you please advise when can I expect a pre-invite? I am working in renewable energy. Well, you're working in renewable energy. That's a good chance. So you should also submit your EOI for 491 at 85 points for South Australia. because they are also prioritizing the people who are working in renewable energy. You launched EY in the month of January this year. Now, you need to understand, as per uh, this year's trend, the mechanical engineers are getting invited at 85 points for 190 and 90 or more points for 491. So you are a bit short, a bit shy of 90 or 95 points for your occupations pre-invite possibility. So maybe you can try to grab another 5 or 10 points if you can, for better chances of invite for mechanical engineer occupation in this calendar year. Now let's take up the next one is from CP, sir, for software engineer for information technology. Okay, I think we have covered your question. So let's take up the next one. Okay, one more thing. We will be covering a topic of skills in demand visa at a high level at the end of this live question and answer session. And we will also be discussing about the state's behavior, how they will be closing this financial year and how they will be planning their migration in the next financial year. So stay tuned till the end of this session to be informed about these topics. Now let's take up the next one is from Rashida Tahir. If we opt for a 407 visa and get an invite for 491 and 190 during training, can we accept that? Yes, you can accept that. So these 491 and 190 skilled migration visa categories are independent visas. So you can always accept the pre-invites of these two visa subclasses from the state where you are residing in your on your 407 visa. But you need to confirm one thing, that in your EOI you need to mention the state and under your usual country of residence where you will be when you will be onshore on 407 visa. So you for definitely you can accept the invite during your training. Now let's take up the next one is from Saif Hayat. Respected Umar, with what is the demand of telecom engineers, chances of invite in coming months? Okay, so we have seen the pre-invitations issued by, I believe, NSW and Victoria to telecom engineers at 85 points. Or so chances of invite are there for telecommunications engineers, and telecommunications engineers have better chances than telecommunications network engineers or network planners. So your occupation is good enough, but you need to have like more than 80 points for a good chance of invite for 190 in the next financial year. Now let's take up the next one is from Hamda Aslam. Secondly, my husband is software engineer. What should we apply? 189, 190 by making him primary applicant. His points will be 80 or 90 for 190. We are offshore. Well, 80 and 90 points are very good for if you're talking about 90 points for 190, then these are very good points for software engineer occupation. So you should definitely your husband should definitely get the skills assessment done as software engineer and apply for and submit the EOIs for all the states in which the software engineer is eligible at 90 points for 190, and there will be a good chance of invite. Now let's take up the next one is from Shekha Sindhu. The question is that what are the chances and least points for electrical engineer? Well, I believe as per the invitation round trend of all the big states, for example, New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia, the chances of invite for electrical engineer for 190, if we are talking about 190, you should have at least 80 or 85 points for to beat the competition which you will be facing for this occupation. So that's it. And now let's take up the next one. It's from Subiya Tabassum. The question is that I'm scoring 80 points for 491 visa and submitted my EOI, but do not have any experience. What are the chances of getting the invite? Okay, so you have submitted your EOI at 80 points for 491. I'm not sure what's your occupation, but if you're talking about a non-priority occupation, then the chances of getting an invite without having a work experience could be possible from the states like Victoria, because New South Wales is preferring the EOIs where the applicant has more than 5 years of experience or more than 5 points of a or like 0 to 5 points of employment. But it all depends upon your occupation. So let's suppose if even if New South Wales will be conducting an round and they will be selecting an occupation group which is even a non-priority one, and they need that occupation in their state for their industry, still it is possible that you can get an invite without having work experience, with any work experience in your EOI. But again, it depends upon your occupation's demand. But 80 points for 491 for non-priority occupations are not going to be enough. That's a high level answer. Now let's take up the next one is from Mubashir. What is the likelihood of 189 round this financial year? And the financial year means till the end of June, or the healthcare profession going to remain the priority? Yes, I think we have already covered your question. Yes, 189, a 189 round can happen in the month of May this year, and the financial year ends by June this year. Healthcare professions are going to remain priority even in next financial year, but it's still possible that they can include a few occupation groups which are in demand in their 189 round. But most probably they will be covering the healthcare occupational group and the education occupation group. Now let's take up the next one is from Rashida. If we go for 407, I think we have already covered that if you are going for 407 pathway or visa, then obviously the best PR pathway for the people who are currently on 407 visa is employer sponsored scheme. So while you are being on 407 for like 12 months or maximum 2 months, you need to talk to your employer if you have good terms with the employer, whether the employer is registered and eligible and who can sponsor you for an employer sponsored visa, for example, 482 or a skills in demand visa in future, and that can lead you towards the PR pathway through employer nomination scheme. So registered nurse NEC, Mubashir, you are asking that for 189, 80 points for registered at NEC, you have great points for this occupation. So you should be hopeful to receive a pre-invite, the final invite for 189. If you are a registered nurse NEC and if you have submitted your EOI for 189 from like a few months at 80 points, so you should stay hopeful. It's a good occupation, and May, if they will conduct a round of healthcare professions in the month of May, you might be getting the invitation to apply for the visa for through 189 subclass. Now let's take up the next one. It's from what a timing. I have studied for 78 weeks in regional and lived there for 2 years. Can I claim 5 points for regional studies because they mentioned that 16 month studies is enough? Is that true? Well, yes, 16 months studies, 16 months duration is enough, but also 92 weeks has to be completed for your education to fulfill the Australian study requirement, and only then you can be eligible for 5 points for regional studies. Well, if you have so for to get the 5 points of a study in regional area, you need to fulfill the Australian study requirement. So if you are fulfilling ASR Australian study requirement criteria, then you can definitely claim those 5 points of study in regional area. These two are interlinked, and these need to be fulfilled together through a single criteria. But as per standard, the 92 weeks study period is the standard requirement for Australian study requirement. Now let's take up the next one is from Hamda. Can we live in any region if we successfully get a 491 regional visa? Will it impact future PR process? Yes, you can live in any region, any designated regional area of Australia on your subclass 491 visa. Uh, and and obviously you need to check the postcodes which will be the designated regional areas at the time you will be traveling, and it will not impact your future PR process in any way. I know you're talking about the 191 visa application. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Kesh. My current skill assessment is mechanical engineer, but there is a chance to get 482 from my company as a supply chain professional. It is advisable to take this up, or should I wait for 491? Well, 482 is also a good option to pursue towards your PR pathway, but it all depends whether you will be because at a later stage your core occupation will also matter. For 482 you might not be required a skills assessment, but later when you will be applying a 186 you will be requiring a skills assessment for your nominated occupation. At that time, if you will be working as supply chain professional on your 482 visa with an employer who will also be ready to sponsor you for a 186 with TRT or DE stream, then you will have to get your skills assessment done for supply chain professional or supply and distribution manager occupation on the basis of your mechanical engineer qualification. So you need to understand these things as well, that for later on for PR pathway for 186, you need to have the positive skills assessment. But what you can do is you can go for 482 visa application by a sponsoring employer, and in the meanwhile you can also submit the EOI for 491 and keep waiting for a chance of getting a pre-invite for 491 during your 482 visa service in Australia. Now let's take up the next one is from Ahmed Khalid. The question is that chances of mechanical engineering with 90 points in 491, is there need to do NATI and can get invite at same points? Well, the good chances of invite for mechanical engineers start from 95 points for 491. You are shy of like 5 points. If you can do NATI, I would recommend you to do, because we have seen pre-invites of 491 in the recent months where the pre-invite is issued to people who have cleared their NATI. So that's a good addition to have. Next question is from Sharat Singh. Sharat Singh is asking, what is scope industrial automation engineer? Well, if you are an industrial automation engineer, you can go for a possible occupation of engineering professionals, NEC, or production or plant engineer, or industrial engineer, or even engineering technologist. But out of these four, the possibility or the chances of getting a pre-invite are higher for engineering technologist or production or plant engineer as compared to engineering professionals, NEC. Now it all depends upon your EOI points as well. So as an industrial automation engineer, although it's a good occupation to have, it's a good field to have, it all depends upon your EOI to beat EOI points to beat the competition from while when you have submitted your application. Now let's take up the next one is from CP. Kindly tell about PR after 186 or 190 visa, please. Okay, so 190 is already a PR, so there is no question about getting a PR after 190. But if you are talking about 186, so 186 has three pathways or three streams. Number one is direct entry pathway, which requires at least 3 years of work experience in your nominated occupation, along with a positive skills assessment in your nominated occupation, and you can apply for and it requires an employer sponsorship. All 186 streams require employer sponsorship. The second stream is 186 temporary residence transition stream, which requires you to be working in Australia with an employer for 2 years, and again you need to have a positive skills assessment, and this is again a PR pathway. And the third one is the labor agreement, which is associated with the TSS 482 labor agreement. Now 186 itself is a PR, and it has the same work rights and eligibility and the possibility of converting into citizenship as 189 or 190 or 191. So you need to stay in Australia in total for 48 months, and out of 48 months you need to be in Australia for 12 months on PR, which can be a 186, 189 or 190 or 191. So that's how it works towards the citizenship pathway. Now let's take up the next one is from Melbourne vibes. Me and both electrical engineer working on 482 visa in relevant occupation in Melbourne. Current points are 95. EOI submitted for Melbourne this month. Tentative timeline for invite. Well, no one can estimate the tentative timeline for invite in current circumstances, because if you can see that most of the states are almost concluding their nomination allocations for this financial year, and they will be recommencing in the next financial year in the month of July or August. So if you have submitted your EOI for electrical engineer in this month, so it also depends upon your EOI submission date other than your total points. Although your total points are good enough, which is 95, I believe it is for the points are for 491 or 190, I'm not sure, but in both cases the points are good, and I'm sure you have already submitted an ROI as well for Victoria. You can expect to be receiving a pre-invite from Victoria in at the start of the next financial year as they recommence their invitation round, but it also depends upon your total annual earnings as mentioned in your ROI. So these details you need to confirm from your ROI and EOI for Victoria. Next question is from Mohammed Chuktai. The question is that, is production of plant engineer a competitive occupation? What are the points one should have to get invited by at least end of 2024 for both 118 and 119? So production of plant engineer is a good occupation to have. Last year, production of plant engineers got invites in like higher number of invites were given to production or plant engineers as well as mechanical engineers. But for this year, till the end of this calendar year, or till December 2024, if you want to be very high hopeful, then you should be scoring like 85 points, and you should be 85 points for 190, and 95 points for 491, and 80 points for 189 for this occupation. This this occupation has good chances of invite from Queensland, NSW, and maybe Victoria. But you need to have high points, or otherwise the competition is high. Although the supply of the EOIs of this occupation is also limited, but competition is still high. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Nima. Nima is asking, I lost my 491 visa this month. Which documents I have to renew and resubmit if expired while the waiting for the visa processing? PCC, skill assessment, medical, or PTE? Well, so once you have lodged your visa, your points get locked. You do not need to renew your skills assessment and English language test now anymore. Let's talk about the medical and PCC. So you have already completed your medical, and it will stay valid for 12 months. Similarly, your PCC from any country will stay valid for 12 months. Now, your 491 visa can take more than 12 months. You do not need to renew your PCC or the medical examination until and unless asked by the case officer during the processing of your visa until the end of your processing time. So, yeah, just wait for a request, an S56 request for getting the renewed for providing the renewed PCC or medical. Otherwise, you do not need to do anything, and especially you do not need to do anything for skills assessment and PTE renewable after lodging of your visa. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Sudhakar Reddy. What are the chances of an electronics engineer invite for 190 and 191 with 70 points next year? Well, to be honest, I just mentioned a bit earlier that like good chances of invite for electronics engineers start from 90 points for 190. So with 70 points, I'm not sure. You need to get at least 10 or 15 points more if you can for a possible chance of invite for 491. You should expect a possibility of getting an invite for electronics engineer for 491 at 95 points. Nima is again asking how long it takes for CO to look into my visa from the date further assessment status has changed. Well, since you have submitted your 491 visa, the your status of your visa must be in further assessment after you have provided your biometrics, after you have completed your biometrics verification. So it doesn't depend. You need to be hopeful and expect a possible commencement of your visa processing by 11 or 12 months. And once you will receive a commencement email, even if you will not receive a commencement email, you can receive the outcome of your visa application in 12 or 13 months for your 491 from the date of your lodgement. Can I stay in Sydney or Brisbane when I first enter Australia for a few weeks and then move to regional? Well, a few weeks are okay, but I would still recommend you to go and land in regional area first, and then you may travel to Sydney or Brisbane for like a few days, but do not extend your stay in Sydney, Brisbane, or Melbourne for more than a few days in order to be fulfilling your 491 visa conditions. So Chaitanya is asking any indication for management consultant chances. You have given your points of 189, 80 points. So if you have 180 points for 189, you must be having 85 points for 190 and 95 points for 491. Now the management consultants, although management consultant is a good occupation, but you should have submitted your EOIs in all the applicable states, especially Victoria, and Canberra, and Western Australia, New South Wales, and Queensland. These 5 states you should be submitting your EOI for 190 for your management consultant occupation, because this is like a very limited demand occupation. So the chances of invite would be best if you will be applying across all the states if you are an offshore applicant. So Nima is again asking, is Form 80 mandatory for 491 visa? Are there 491 applicants who got S56 request for it? Well, it's not mandatory, but you should submit a Form 80 after filling and signing it for all the applicants who are 17 years or above. So it's like good to have a form, so that you should avoid an S56 request for this later in order to delay your visa processing, because you guys need to understand that an S56 request can delay your visa processing time by at least 1 or 2 months, because the case will again be added in a long queue of the further assessment cases. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Saif Hayat. The question is that if assessment done as telecom engineer, and if I want to apply for other occupation like telecom technician or field telecommunication engineer, are there more demands of it? So when we are talking about telecommunication sector, the best occupation as per this as per this financial year's invitation rounds trend is the telecommunications engineer itself. We have seen invitation rounds, we have seen pre-invites issued to more to telecommunications engineer as compared to telecommunications network engineers, network planners, telecommunications technicians, or field telecommunications engineers. So you should stick to your occupation of telecommunications engineer if you have got positive skills assessment. But in the meantime, you should also try to improve your EOI points, because good chances of invite for telecommunications engineers start from 80 points or 85 points for 190. Now let's talk about next question is from Maliha. I have lodged EOI for 189, 190, 491 on 11th of November. My points for 190 is 75 and occupation is engineering technologist. I am offshore. What can be my invite ETA? Well, no one can give you an invite ETA, but Maliha, you need to understand that the points you need to improve. For an engineering technologist occupation, the good chances of invite start from like 80 points. So you are shy of like 5 points. Try to improve by 5 or 10 points if you can, through better, higher English level or partner skills, or maybe if you have any work experience which you can claim. But you need to have like 85 points to have good chances of invite in the next invitation rounds. But if you're talking about ETA, you can expect a possible chance of invite as an offshore applicant from any state who will be conducting which will be conducting an invitation round in the next few months, from starting from April. So maybe possible that if once you will be having 80 plus points, you can expect a pre-invite in the next financial year. So let's take up the next one. Is from what a typing. I have said 70 points for 189 as an ECT. Is can I expect an invitation? Currently working as an ECT full time. Well, if you are related to ECT, early childhood teacher, then you should stay hopeful at 70 points for 189 for sure. If you are working as ECT, you have higher chances of invite. You should submit EOIs for the state in which you are residing as well for 190 to maximize your chances in addition to 189. And hopefully you will be getting a pre-invite or invite for 189 very soon, because ECT is a very, very high priority occupation amongst the occupational groups. So let's take up the next one. It's from Chaitanya. Should we have references for experience before 10 years also? Have not claimed points in EY but mentioned in the details. So a post on this. So a post on this in the group recently. Well, it's not mandatory. I'm sure what you are talking. I know what you are talking about. It's good to have the employer reference letters and any pay slips or bank statement, whatever you can gather for your employments prior to 10 years, before 10 years period. But it will not happen with every applicant. Now it depends on many factors. So it's like good to have on safe side. You can keep these documents ready for the employment before 10 years, but still they will not ask for the details or the evidence of any employment which is not related to nominated occupation, or which is not contributing in the employment points claim. Next one is from Asim Ahmed. The question is that I have submitted UI in January 24 for 190 and 491 all states marketing specialist with 75 points for 190 and 85 points for 491. What are my chances of getting re-invite? 8 years plus experience and competent English. Well, um, For good chances of invite for marketing specialists start from 85 points. We have seen invites for a marketing specialist at 80 points as well from the states such as Victoria and NSW and Queensland. But you should be having like 5 or 10 points more if you can, to for better chances of invite. And you just submitted your EOI in the month of January, like 3 months ago. So it also depends upon your EOI submission date, that how you are performing, how your EOI is performing against the competition. The people who would be waiting at 80 or 85 points, who must have been submitted the EOI earlier than yours, will be getting the chance first. And then Okay. So next is from Abir Naseem. The question is, I submitted my skill assessment as 312111 architectural draftsperson on 4th of March 2024 on normal tracking, but got no email yet about confirmation or any other document submission. How much time required? Uh, so if you are talking about normal tracking, normal processing, so it can take like, it depends mainly. So it can take even 5 months. So because vertices takes like 5 to 6 months on average for normal processing. You must have received an email of, once you have submitted your skill assessment, a confirmation email of receive of a submission of the application. But you might be getting a chance of priority processing slot in like 1 or 2 weeks from vertices during your normal processing time period. But by normal processing, it can take 5 months. And if you will get a priority processing slot, they will give you a result in 10 days. So the next question is from Maliha. I have 10 points proficient in English language. Do I need superior for my invite to come faster? Yes, Maliha, as I mentioned earlier, that for a good chance of invite for engineering technologist, the points level should be 85 for 190. So if you can retake your PTE to score superior level, then definitely it will add a lot of weight in your EOI, and the chances of invite will increase drastically. So 85 points will be a good chance, will give you a good chance of invite for engineering technologist. Now let's take up the next one is from Abir Naseem. So guide me how much time it take for processing, and anyone who submitted the documents under same category can tell me about timing. Well, as I mentioned, that vertices takes typically 5 months for in the case of normal processing, and if you will be getting a priority processing slot, they will be giving you the result or the outcome of your skills assessment application in 10 days of application of the priority processing. Okay, so the next one is from CP. I am a software developer engineering. I have developer engineering. I have 2.5 years experience in RT done and working for MNC. Please kindly tell what is best pathway. I think CP, we have covered your question previously as well, but so you need to get your skills assessment done. So I can tell you guys one thing, that since ACS is also planning to upgrade its migration skills assessment system, and they will be giving the opportunity to the applicants to select 3 ENSCO courses together related to ICT sector. So I would suggest you to take this opportunity of ACS new migration skills assessment process, because they will be giving the result in like 15 or 20 days, and that will be a good chance for you. You can select on the basis of your software developer engineering experience and a relevant qualification. You can select software engineer, developer programmer, and maybe systems analyst if it is applicable to you, or web developer it is applicable to you, or maybe computer network and systems engineer, ICT business analyst. These are good occupations to have. You can select 3 occupations in a single application of ACS and get skills assessment done for all 3 together, so that you can submit EOIs for all of these occupations in the case of NSW, ACT, and Western Australia. Whereas you will be selecting one best suitable occupation, which will give you the highest EOI points for the case of Victoria, Queensland, and South Australia, and Northern Territory and Tasmania. Now, this is the way forward for you for next steps. Now, let's take up the next one is from Shikha. Now, Shikha is asking, I have total work experience of 5.6 years in electrical designing, but I don't have bank statement and ITR of initial 1.5 years because salary was low and get in cash mode. How can I claim total experience? Now, if you are going to apply for skills assessment and relevant skilled employment assessment from Engineers Australia for your electrical design or electrical engineering occupation, for your 5.6 years of experience, they would definitely be asking you for secondary documents in addition to primary documents. Now, the primary document is your employment reference letter, which I believe you can arrange from your employer for your whole 5.6 years of experience. For the secondary document, you need to provide either like provident fund statement or yeah, like superannuation statement, and also even if you were getting, if your salary was low or lower than the threshold, you can still submit the income tax return statements in your home country. Now, for those 2 years or one and a half year, to fulfill this requirement of Engineers Australia. Otherwise, without having the income tax return statement, without having an EOBI, the superannuation statement, EOBI in the case of Pakistan, but I'm not sure about your country. And also, you should have any document from your employer, such as a provident fund statement or end of service benefit statement from your third party legal or official or government issued document. These things are important to get relevant skilled employment assessment from Engineers Australia as part of your skills assessment. Other than that, they will not consider your 1.5 years of experience, and it will be a problem for you in points test advice. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Hafiz Ghulam Huyuddin. What are the chances of industrial automation engineer, mechatronics engineer with 85 points for 189 category, and which states are more favorable? I guess you are asking. So, as I think I have covered the answer related to industrial automation engineer already, so you can get your skills assessment done as engineering professionals, NEC, or engineering technologist. Or if you have relevant experience of industry, then you can go for production or plant engineer. Your points are very good, to be honest. 85 points for 189, 90 points for 190. You have great chances of invite for engineering professionals, engineering technologists. You need to get your skills assessment done either for engineering professionals and see if it is suitable for you, or for engineering technologists, because there is no direct occupation code of mechatronics engineer. So you need to select either of these occupations, and both of these occupations are good. Production or plant engineer is also good, but engineering technologist and engineering professionals NSC are a slightly better in terms of the chances of invite for your occupation. And submit your EOI for all the states in which your occupation is valid. For example, definitely for NSW in Victoria, but also for Queensland. Queensland is giving invites at 85 points to engineers to offshore. You guys shouldn't you guys shouldn't ignore the Queensland. Next one is from Namal. Will there be at least one 189 round as compared to previous years, as it is necessary to have superior English to have an invitation for 189? We are anticipating to have a 189 invitation round in the month of May this year, before the close of this year, as they did in the month of May in the last financial year. So to have superior English is not mandatory for any subclass. Now, what is happening in this financial year is that Victoria is one state, and maybe NSW is another state, which are prioritizing the EOIs where the applicant has claimed superior English to issue the pre-invite. But it is not the case in the case of 189. So for 189, the total EOI points matter the most, and the EOI submission date as well. Let's take up the next one. It's from Sana Salim Khan. I am done with skills assessment 263111, computer network and systems engineer, as well as PTE superior for alongside spouse proficient with points 85 for 491 and 75 for 190. Well, I'm not sure what's your question. So in addition, I have a sibling in Bathurst, NSW, and also applied for 491 with 85 points. What are the chances? So there are two parts of your question. So let's take up the first part, the skilled migration part. So at 85 points for 491 and 75 points for 190 for computer network and system engineer, the chances are like medium, because computer network and systems engineer is not like the top 5 ICT occupation. So you need to have 85 points for 190 and 95 points for 491 for skilled migration visa category of computer network and systems engineer chances of invite in the next financial year. You can gain additional points maybe from your partner's skills assessment, or maybe you can check the NATI criteria if you can. Whereas on the basis of your sibling, if your sibling is sponsoring you for a 491, and if your sibling is living in a regional NSW area, then your sibling can definitely sponsor you for a 491 visa. But again, the chances of invite at 85 points will remain low, because number one, the possibility would be higher for a skilled migration case, whereas the possibility would be lower for the eligible sponsor case, because uh, it also depends upon the invitation round of by federal government. Now the 491 family sponsored is also covered by the federal government. When they conduct the invitation round for 189, they also send a few invites for 491 family sponsorship. In the last invitation round, which they held in the month of December, they invited only 75 EOIs for 491 family stream across the occupations and around the world. So you should stay hopeful for skilled migration visa category for your occupation of computer network and systems engineer by trying to improve 10 points for your case. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Madhuri. I have applied UI in the month of March 24 with 80 points for 190 as information and organization professional, code 224999. I am a procurement specialist, and what are the chances? Well, the occupation information and organization professional NEC is a good occupation to have as compared to procurement manager or a procurement specialist, or the and supply and distribution manager. So, but chances of invite at 80 points for 190 would remain like medium to fair, not high chances, because this occupation, although this occupation has been in the invitation rounds of NSW and Victoria, and we have seen the invites of this occupation at 85 points or more. So you are like a short of like say 5 or 10 points. So maybe you can think about exploring to see whether you can improve 5 points for a better chance of invite for your occupation of information and organization professional NEC 224999 for 190. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Melbourne Vibes. Now Melbourne Vibes is asking EOI submitted for Adelaide or South Australia on Skill Select website on 95 points. South Australia website for ROI not submitting application saying you need invite. Will our EOI application be considered for South Australia? Well, the ROI for South Australia is mainly depending on your occupation's eligibility for one of their, or your occupation or your profile's eligibility for one of their pathways. Now they have three pathways for which they require ROI. Number one is graduate stream or pathway. Number two is working in South Australia pathway, and number three is highly skilled and talented stream. Now, if you are not fulfilling any of these streams, then you do not need to submit an ROI. You just need to submit an EOI if your occupation is not eligible for highly skilled and talented stream, for example. Your EOI will still remain valid for South Australia and still can be considered for a pre-invite from South Australia without an ROI. We have seen the invites being issued without an ROI for the cases which are not related to these three streams of South Australia. So the next question is from Mubashir. If they change the balancing of the points, what will happen to those who applied before these changes? Well, as I mentioned, that if they will recalibrate or rebalance the points distribution among the criteria of the EOI system, points test system, then the existing applicants' points will also be redistributed as per the balance, as per the new balance. So this is all anticipation. We are not sure how they will be coming up with their new digital system of the EOI skill select. So we will be discussing about this in our next live sessions as well, and also we will be announcing as we will be getting the information from the department in our Facebook group. So stay tuned on our Facebook group and on our YouTube channel to know about the details of the upcoming changes in Australian immigration sphere. Uh, Now let's take up the next one. Is from CP, sir, for software developer completed engineering and information technology. Please let me know in which should I register with Engineer Australia or ACS. If you have a degree of information technology, which has like more than 50% content related to IT or computer or information technology, then you should definitely go for the skills assessment from ACS. But if you think that you can provide the evidence of work experience profile related to engineering technologist, then you can think about getting your skills assessment done from a Engineers Australia. Now both have their pros and cons. Getting skills assessment done on the basis of from ACS will have added advantage because software engineers or developer programmers, these occupations have higher chances of invite as compared to computer network engineers or engineering technologists. So maybe you can think about getting skills assessment done from ACS on the basis of your information technology engineering degree. Next, let's take up the next one. Is from Mohammad Tayyib Khan. Done with skills assessment, does it help getting our process time covered for 491 UI? Should we lodge UI even without PTE as it helps covering time? But since it's editable, I will have PTE in 3 months. Well, 3 months is a lot of time, Mohammed Tayyib. We would never advise you to submit an EOI without completing your English language test. You have completed your skills assessment. That is good enough. That completes one of the prerequisites. Your second step is to get your PTE scores, and you should have your PTE scorecard ready with you because it all depends. Once you have submitted your EOI, you can get a pre-invite, and if you will not have an evidence to provide for PTA, you can get banned. You cannot if you are unable to provide the evidence. So it's better to submit the EOI only after completing your PTE test along with your skills assessment positive outcome. So 3 months is a lot of time. So do not take this risk. Let's take up the next one. Is from Merlin. Merlin is asking, I have got my ACS done for software engineer. In order to get another ACS for business analyst, is it acceptable by ACS in having two different roles for the particular time slot? Well, yes, you can get skills, another occupation skill assessment done from ACS. Definitely, if you have got a positive outcome for software engineer, you can also get a positive outcome from business ICT business analyst from ACS. But all depends upon your reference letters and your evidence of employment whether you can be eligible for a business analyst. If you have done professional year from Australia, then definitely you can choose any of the occupations to get your skills assessment done. But if you are offshore or if you are applying on the basis of your work experience, then you should definitely be having the evidence of related work experience in order to apply for business analyst from ACS as an additional skills assessment. Let's take up the next one. It's from Saroj Akram Qureshi. Do not marry or enter into a relationship before first entry condition. So how soon a single applicant can marry after first entry? Can he marry the very next day after landing? Yes. Once you fulfill the condition of this, do not marry or enter into a relationship before first entry on your skilled migration visa or any visa which is having this visa condition, you can get married after getting your visa granted. And once you have traveled to Australia, even for your first entry, you can get married because your condition will be fulfilled. Madhuri is asking, ICT business analyst with 80 points for 190 lodged on 8th of March this year. What are my chances of getting an invite? I am working on increasing my English proficiency. Yes, you should work on increasing your English proficiency to increase further 10 points. And if you will have 90 points for 190 for your occupation of ICT business analyst, your chances of invite will be much higher because ICT business analyst is a very good occupation to have, and it is one of the high priority occupations under the ICT sector. So you should go for retaking of your English language test. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Irfan Ahmed. Anyone got an invitation from SAROI? I am an offshore applicant in construction project manager with 75.4491. Yes, we have seen a few invites in our network who submitted the ROI for highly skilled and talented stream. For example, we have seen people who have been invited who had ROI and proven work experience of defense sector. They were invited from the highly skilled and talented stream for South Australia for 491 and 190. Now, construction project manager, you can submit an EOI for South Australia, and you can submit an ROI if you have relevant work experience towards the focus areas of highly skilled and talented stream. Otherwise, you can simply submit an EOI for South Australia as well as an offshore applicant, similar to how you have submitted your EOI for other states. Now, let's take up the next one. Is from Melbourne Vibes. Onshore candidate, if I get invite, can I leave my 482 visa and apply for bridging visa and on what conditions? Well, if you will receive a pre-invite from your state as an onshore applicant, you can simply submit your visa application of 190, 491, whatever subclass you are talking about, while being on 482 visa, and you can simply wait for your visa grant. You do not need to cancel your 482 visa. You have to wait for your 190 or 491 visa grant, and once your 190 and 491 visa is granted, it will automatically supersede your existing substantive visa, for example a 482 visa. And if your 482 visa will expire prior to the grant of 190 or 491 visa, you will automatically be eligible for a bridging visa, which will have the same work rights as your earlier substantive visa. So this is how it works. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Mubashir. If someone had applied for SC 485 and also applied for 189, they get invitation, and then they somehow get the 189 granted, and in the next hour they also get granted 485. Will the 485 override the 189? Well, yes, it is possible because both 485 and 189 are substantive visa. So once you have applied for 189 visa, you should withdraw your 485 or any other substantive visa immediately, so that your 189 visa do not get superseded or overridden by another substantive visa. So this is an important point to know for the applicants. We are continuing to take up your questions, but one note for you guys, that in the last 10 minutes of our live session, we will be discussing at a high level about the skills in demand visa, which is about to be introduced by the Department of Home Affairs in the next financial year. Now, the skills in demand visa is a very important perspective. Now, one of the highlights of the skills in demand visa is the core skills occupation list, the draft of which has been published by Jobs and Skills Australia, and we have been discussing about this in our group. Also, we will be discussing or touching upon a little about the possibility and the chances of invite in the upcoming rounds and the next financial year's strategy. So stay tuned till the end of this live session in order to be aware, in order to be informed about the future of Australian immigration on behalf of Australian Immigration Matters. So let's take up the next one. The next question is from Arun, sir, for agricultural consultant. 75 points is good for 190 or 491 in this FY. Well, we have seen agricultural engineer occupations pre-invitation from Victoria at 85 points, but we haven't seen agricultural consultant occupations invitation in this whole financial year. So in next financial we are hopeful that the chances of invite for agricultural sector occupations and also the pharmacy sector occupations will be better. It will be a better year for them, for these two occupational groups. But the 75 points are not enough, to be honest. So you should be targeting 85 points for 190 and 95 points for 491 before entering into the next financial year, for better chances of invite for agricultural consultant. Now let's take up the next one. It's from Fatima Rushda. Fatima Rashda, I am I am a motor mechanic on 485. Currently working and living in regional Victoria. I have submitted my EOI 491 last week in Victoria. My point sitting at 90, and my current visa expires in December. Well, the good chances of invite for a motor mechanic start from 90 points. Your points are good. Maybe 90 or 95 points for motor mechanic are good for Victoria, but it also depends upon your annual earnings. I'm not sure how much annual earnings you have declared in your ROI for Victoria 491. If your annual earnings are more than $70,000 or more than 75 or $80,000, the higher the better. Your chances of invite will be good as motor mechanic while being onshore in Victoria for a Victoria pre-invite at 90 points. Maybe you can try to grab another 5 points if you can, for better chances in the next financial year. Your okay, you have already mentioned your annual salary, which is 69950, so it is a bit short of 70,000. Now it really matters to have more than 70,000. So maybe you can talk to your employer to meet the TISMET requirement, so that you can have good chances of invite for motor mechanic from regional for regional 491 visa pre-invite. If you will not get a pre-invitation before December, since your 485 visa is expiring, then maybe you can talk to your employer to give you an opportunity. And if your employer is eligible and a registered sponsor, maybe your employer can sponsor you and nominate you for a 482 visa or any other employer sponsored visa if they can. Now, that is the possible way of extending your stay and while working in Australia onshore in regional Victoria to get on to jump on an employer sponsored visa for your occupation. And while if you are successfully jumped if you are successful in this, then you can stay on 482 for like 2 years, and then you have a PR pathway for 482 as well. But in the meantime, you will have a chance to get an invitation for 491 as well. So let's take up the next one is from Melbourne Vibes. Onshore electrical engineer working in renewable energy sector in Victoria with 90 marks can apply for NSW in South Australia or any other states. Well, no. For that the rule states that if you are in Victoria, you can only submit an EOI for Victoria. You cannot submit an EOI for New South Wales. However, you can submit an EOI for Western Australia for 491 for your occupation of electrical engineer, because Western Australia allows the interstate applications. Similarly, South Australia also allows the interstate applications only if you are eligible for their highly skilled and talented stream. So you need to study that. Other than these two, there are no states which allow you to submit an interstate application if you cannot provide the residency proof of those states. So you cannot submit an EY for those states. The next question is from Namal. Namal is asking, is it necessary to have superior English to be invited for 189 SCI? I'm from construction project manager stream. No, I think we have already covered this question that for 189, there is no preference of having a superior English. The higher EOI points and EOI submission date matter the most for 189 invitation round. The next question is from Anam Tariq. Can some legal document make up for the experience with no pay slip evidence? Pay slip is like primary payment evidence. So nothing can replace a primary payment evidence. So if you do not have a pay slip, you can ask your employer to give you a few pay slips to cover the start and end of the employment at least. Then you can strengthen your payment evidence by providing either bank statement or a provident fund statement or a superannuation statement or any insurance statement in which your salary details are mentioned, or even your tax return statements, tax deduction certificates. These things can strengthen your payment evidence, but the primary payment evidence payslip cannot be ignored. It is one of the most crucial documents as part of your skills assessment, as part of your employment claim during nomination and visa lodgement stages. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Mary. And the question is that I am under visa 476, graduated as structural engineer, and I'm about to go there in Australia this June. Any tips on on which state should give me a higher chance for next visa as a structural or civil engineer? Well, if you can get your skills assessment done as structural or civil engineer, better to go for civil engineer. Then you can choose the states like New South Wales, Western Australia is number one, New South Wales and Victoria. These states are preferable states for the occupation of civil or structural engineer because they prioritize the building industry or the infrastructure industry sector occupations. Next one is from Sharad. How can I claim my experience if I have experience of job while on study? You cannot claim an experience or employment being done on a student visa or while being study. You cannot claim the experience. So your experience can only be claimed after your qualification, after you have completed your qualification while you had work rights to do the job. Next one is from Janeet Kisson. Janeet is asking, how about financial investment advisor? What chances of inviting 100 points and 90 points for 190? Well, we have seen the financial investment advisors occupations invitations in this year from Victoria at 90 points for 190. So you definitely have great chance of invite at 90 points for 190 and 100 points for 491. I'm not sure if you're offshore, you should submit your EOI for all the states in which your occupation is valid. And good luck for next steps. Financial investment advisor has been a good occupation to have among the financial occupations, financial industry occupation. Next one is from Subia. Subia Tabassum is asking, I am a 2023 Farm D graduate, zero experience and married. PTE score is 90. Submitted the EOI with 80 points for 491. What are the chances and when can expect to receive my invite? Well, I'm not sure what your occupation is, but if you have completed your Farm D, you definitely are talking about a retail or hospital pharmacist, maybe, or pharmacy technician. You do not have any work experience. If you have not, you may have submitted EOI of retail or for hospital pharmacist on the basis of 80 points for 491. Well, you need to understand that there are a lot of retail or hospital pharmacists or even industrial pharmacists or pharmacy technicians who are waiting for an invite at 90 points for 491 as well. So the chances of invite at 80 points for 191 are not much, at least in this financial year. You can stay hopeful in next financial year, but you should have you should also try to get on a job related to your nominated occupation, to be currently employed in your nominated occupation for better chances of invite. Now, next one is from Sarosh Akram. How soon a single applicant marry after first entry of 189, 190 visa? Can one marry after next year? I think we have already covered your question, Sarosh. Sudhakar is asking, what are the chances of an HR advisor with 90 points for 491 invite this year or next year? We have not attended my same question above. Okay. So, Sudhakar, HR advisor is a good occupation to have, but we have not seen much invites in this financial year. Last financial year, we had seen many invites of HR advisor at 90 points for 491. Your points are good. So maybe in next financial year, starting from July, you can stay hopeful in the whole next financial year for a possible chance of invite for HR advisor from either Western Australia, Victoria, or New South Wales. Not in this financial year, because they haven't considered this occupation group in this financial year by all the states. Good luck for next year though. The next question is from Bipin. When they will start processing 23-24 invited applicants, 1491 visa processing, any case officer team batch working on that? Well, we are not sure whether they have allocated the 2023-24 in visa lodged visa applications yet, because as per the current knowledge of the visa processing queue, we have seen on behalf of Australia Immigration Matters, we have processed and analyzed the data, and we have seen that they have reached until April 2023 applications. At the start of April 2023 applications for the case of non-priority occupations. But if your occupation is related to priority sectors, then you can definitely get a visa processed in less than 12 months. Otherwise, you should stay hopeful in 12 to 14 months for your 491 visa. Next one is from Herma. Is being a single parent a factor for not getting an invite? No, there is no such factor. Even if you are a single parent, you can submit an EOI, and all depends on your occupation and EOI points and your English score and your work experience points, that what the chances of invite. You having being a single parent has no negative factor on getting an invitation. The next one is from Namal. What is the possibility to have an invitation for a construction project manager at 75 points for 190 and 491 at 85? So construction project manager, we have seen invitations at 75 points for 190 in this financial year, and 80, 75, 80, 85, 90 points for 190. So you should definitely stay hopeful. I'm not sure in this financial year, but next financial year would be a good chance. But if you can increase your English language proficiency points by 10 more by scoring superior level, then you should definitely be high hopeful in the next financial year. Sana Salim is asking another prudent question is, in case of 491 or 190 visa issuance, one can stay in any regional area, of one has to stay within the specified state's region. For 491, you can stay, you can live and work in any regional area of Australia except Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. For 190, you have to stay in your inviting state. For example, if you are invited by New South Wales, you have to live and work, and you have to fulfill your commitment morally for the state to stay in their any of the cities of the state for 2 years, and then you can go anywhere. Next one is from Khan. Khan is asking, what when submitting EOI, do you prefer doing it independently or through an agency? If we receive an invitation, what are the advantages and disadvantages of applying independently versus through an agency? Well, it's a very good question. So, Ken, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your question, pronouncing your name correctly. So, Ken, it has no impact on the chances of invite whether you apply yourself or through an agency. If you are submitting your EOI, the agent is also submitting an EOI in the same system, the skills select. Now the EOI will go to the same pool for the states and for 189. They will be selecting the occupation and the EOI on the basis of their own points criteria and their preferences of work experience and English language points, without thinking without considering the factor whether the EOI was submitted by an agent or by the individual, him or herself. So it has no impact. However, engaging an agent from start to end has added advantages. For example, the agent knows an agent can communicate with the Department of Home Affairs at any time. They can submit an email through their rights of communication. Number two, the agent knows the documentation requirement uh, after pre-invite stage, during the nomination stage, and at the visa application stage, and also for the skills assessment stages. Now, the documentation is the crucial step of getting the nomination approved and the visa approved. So whether or not you want to engage an agent from the start of the process, or you should think about engaging an agent at least after receiving a pre-invite, you can submit an EOI yourself. That's not a big deal. If you think that EOI is difficult for you to understand, then you can engage an agent. However, engaging an agent after receiving a pre-invite for nomination and visa application stages are still advisable. The next one is from Nima. I had USA student visa refusal 10 years ago. Will this affect my 491 visa? Not really. However, if your student visa of USA, the reason of refusal of your student visa was due to any medical or criminal reasons, then it can impact. Otherwise, even if you will declare about it in your 491 visa application, there is no impact. Next one is from Mary Joyce. My partner's subsequent visa 476 was denied due to capping. Should we reapply once the FY reopens, or what other pathways can we do? Well, you need to wait for the announcement of the allocations for 476 by the start of the next financial year, that is around July, before submitting your application for 476, because until the month of June they have capped and closed the 476 visa application, and they will not be entertaining any 476 visa application even for the subsequent entrant. However, they may be announcing the new quota, a limited quota for 476 visa applicants in the month of June or July. So you should keep an eye on the news on the Department of Home Affairs about this, and in our group we will be announcing about it as soon as the official word come, and only then you should submit the visa application for 476 for your subsequent entrant of your partner. The next one is from Melbourne Wives. As an onshore electrical engineer working in Victoria and applied for 190 with 95 points, should I apply for QLD, SA and NSW? No, you cannot apply for QLD, SA and NSW while being onshore in Victoria. Maximum you can do is you can submit an EOI for WA, Western Australia 491, because only they allow the interstate applicant. Okay, the tech guy is asking, can you move to another state on 190 and 491 visa? For 491 visa, you can go anywhere in Australia as far as it is a postcode of designated regional area. You cannot live and work in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane on 491 visa. While on 190, you have to live and work in the state from where you have been invited. You can go to any city within that state for 190. You have to fulfill the commitment of 2 years with that state, or as per their rules morally, in order to fulfill the 190 state commitment requirements. It's not the visa condition, it's the state commitment. The next one is from tech guy. Can software engineer get invited 80 points if you have superior English and maximum experience points? That, well, if you're talking about 80 base points, and if you will add like 5 points for 190 and 15 points for 491, then yes, you can have high hopes. You can have hopes to get invited for software engineer. Now, the next one is from Tonge 2021. What about the demand for industrial and production engineers in Australia? Well, industrial engineers and production and plant engineers, both occupations, we have seen the invitations of these two occupations from Queensland, from Victoria, and SW. Very limited invites though in this financial year, but you still should submit EOI for your suitable occupation and stay hopeful in next financial year. Earlier the EOI, earlier chance of invite. Yes, Mohammed Tayyab, earlier the EOI, earlier the chance of invite, and we are talking about the initial submission date of EOI, not the new updated date of effect. So yes, this does impact. Next one is from Deepthi. Deepthi is asking, I have done my electronics and communication engineering. Will ICT business analyst suit me for assessment? Well, ICT, you need to read the standard job description and the role of ICT business analyst from the ACS migration skills assessment document. They have given a document in which they have provided the general or standard JDs of each of these occupation codes. You need to read those JDs in order to confirm whether you fulfill the requirements and criteria of the standard JDs as you are electronics and communication engineer. Well, it depends more on your work experience profile than your degree. If your degree is like having more than 50% of ICT content or computer related or IT related, then your degree can be considered for ACA skills assessment. But for the ICT business analyst eligibility, you need to match the standard JDs of your selected occupation from your work experience profile. Now let's take up the next one. Is from Shaima Barodi. For internal auditor with 80 points and skilled partner and product and proficient English, what are my chances for invitations for any type of visa? 191, 491, and 190, and what states you recommend, sir? So, internal auditor is a good occupation to have if your base points are 80 and you're talking about 80 plus 5 points for 190 and 80 plus 15 points for 491, then you definitely have good chances of invite for at 95 points for 491. But if your 80 points are including the state nomination points, but then you should definitely try to work on increasing your points. Uh, and the states we are talking about, Victoria, NSW, Queensland, Western Australia, these are preferred state for this occupation. Sandeep Portal is asking, sir, I'm thinking to do skills assessment of cook. What will be the chances for cook in Western Australia at 80 points for 190 and 95 points for Western Australia? Well, Western Australia definitely invites cook and chef, both hospitality related occupations. If you can get your skills assessment done as cook, you can have a bright chance of invite for cook occupation from Western Australia at 95 points for 491. Next one is from Anoj. My partner has applied for the 491 visa, but it hasn't been granted yet. We plan to get married after the visa approved. It is necessary to visit Australia at least once after the visa is granted. Well, it's a soft requirement, Anuj. So the visa condition states that you cannot get married until and unless the visa is granted and you have entered Australia for first entry. It's a soft requirement that you enter the Australia first. Once your visa is granted and you are still offshore, you can submit and you can send an email. You can call Department of Home Affairs and ask them whether you can get married now that you have received your visa, and after getting married you can enter in Australia. They may give you a waiver because it's a soft requirement. However, if you will not communicate with them, then you will have to make the first entry, and only then you will be able to your partner and you will be able to get married to fulfill the visa conditions during the application. The next one is from Lawrence. What can you say about the chances of agricultural consultant? I have 85 points for 189 and been waiting for invite. I know, Lawrence, you have been waiting from July 2023 at 85 points from agricultural consultant. We expected and we hoped that NSW might be inviting this occupation in this F5, but we haven't seen any invites for agricultural consultant in this F5 from NSW or across the states. We saw invitations for agricultural engineer from Victoria, but not for this occupation. We are hoping that the next financial year, you will have a chance because your points are very good. So stay hopeful and good luck for next financial year for your occupation. Anuj, my partner is applied for 491. I think we have covered. Mudassir is asking, I am a transport engineer with 80 points on the 190 and 90 points on the 491. I am considering the best option for my ROI in the state of Victoria. Please guide me in this regard. So for Victoria, by default, they do not consider, they do not prefer the EOIs of which are not related to healthcare or education or social services or hospitality and tourism for 491. So when we are talking about transport engineer occupation 233215, you should go for Victoria 190. And while having submitted Victoria ROI for 190, you should try to grab another 5 or 10 points if possible for you for better chances of invite. Mohammed Ayyub is asking, could you explain what's ROI? ROI is registration of interest. It's similar to expression of interest. Now, expression of interest is submitted in Skill Select, whereas registration of interest is submitted on the state's application portal. Now, each state has its own requirement. For example, Victoria asks for ROI in addition to an EOI. We have already provided a post in our social media pages especially in our Facebook group, that which four states require additional applications in addition to an EOI for you to submit, for the states to consider your application. You should you can post a query about this question in our Facebook group, and we will provide you that post in order for you to understand. And similarly, we have already provided the videos on these four states applications, including the ROIs for Victoria and South Australia and Northern Territory and the Canberra metrics for ACT, that how to submit these applications. We have the videos on our YouTube channel. You can watch those videos as well in order to understand the next steps. The next one is from Best 5 Industrial Pharmacist with 85 points. I think we have covered the industrial pharmacist, retail pharmacist, hospital pharmacist point, that this financial year hasn't been good for this occupational group. We are hoping that next financial year will be good. At 85 points for 491, you should stay hopeful, but you should try to get another 10 points by scoring superior in English for better chances of invite for industrial pharmacist at 95 points for 491. The next one is from Sange, is asking any chances for agricultural scientists with 75 points for 189 and 80 for 190. Well, the chances are low for agricultural scientist at 80 points for 190 because this occupational group hasn't been invited in this financial year. How soon a single person enters into a relationship after first entry on 191? I think we have already covered your question, Sarosh. Let's take up the next one from Hamza Jat. Salam, bhai, enrolled I have done EN in NSW and working as enrolled nurse in regional NSW. If I go by pathway 1 NSW, which means I must be working with NSW regional based employer. The problem is my pay is 63,000 per annum, but minimum pay for pathway 1 should be 70K. What should I do? Should I do RN right in next year? Well, yes, for NSW 491 pathway 1, you should be earning 70,000 per annum to be eligible for their nomination criteria. You can talk to your employer to increase your annual earnings by maybe 7,000 to be eligible for NSW 4, and then you will have to stay with this employer for like 12 months to be eligible for NSW 491 pathway 1 in next year. However, registered nurse is definitely a better choice or a better occupation compared to enrolled nurse. So if you can go for a registered nurse skills assessment, that's a better way to do for skilled migration case. However, you can continue your job as enrolled nurse in NSW and try to get at least 70,000 annual earnings for NSW 191 491 pathway 1 eligibility. Now let's take up the next one is from Sharat, Computer Networking System Engineer, 85 points. I think we have already covered that this occupation is chances of invite are good at 85 or more points at 190. Shaima is asking internal auditor sir with proficient English and skilled partner. We have already covered the internal auditor chances of invite with are better at 85 points for 190 and for 95 points for 491 from Victoria and NSW. Next one is from M. Jaff. I don't know which visa type to apply for to have higher chances than petroleum engineer with 10 years of experience. So your first step is to get your skills assessment done. As petroleum, you have experience of petroleum engineer with 10 years of experience. There is an occupation called petroleum engineer, but you can also think about any other occupation, for example, production or plant engineer or engineering technologist, which have better chances of invite as compared to petroleum engineer. So once you have completed or got your positive skills assessment as petroleum engineer, you can submit the EOIs for all the states for 190 and 491 after clearing your English language test, and based on your work experience, you can be hopeful then. The next one is from Madeline. I have got AC as a software engineer updated up to February 2015, approved up to. But then it will be invalid if I am applying for BA until February 2015. Will ACS question how same person apply for two roles? Well, that's what I mentioned earlier to you as well, that if your occupations JDs were having up to 2015, if your occupations JDs had had suitability for both software engineer and ICT business analyst, then it is still possible that you can submit a reference letter with the specific JDs for ICT business analyst, even if you have got the skills assessment done on for the same employment. But it all depends upon the suitability and relevancy of your employment with that occupation. If you cannot, you should not apply for ICT business analyst. You cannot do that forcefully if your occupation is not matching or your work experience is not matching to the standard JDs of the occupation. Next one is from Pamela Levy. I have 10 years experience as nurse support worker. I have already obtained a positive skills assessment, IELTS band 7 and a diploma in nursing. How do I get nominated by sponsor from Africa? So you need to submit EOI if you are talking about skilled migration. Otherwise, if you are looking for a sponsor, you need to apply for jobs in Australia to find an eligible sponsor for your occupation of nurse support worker. And from Africa, it doesn't matter, but you need to find a job. If you can find a job, because the nurses in this occupation category is in high demand in Australia, you may be able to find a job from your network, from LinkedIn, from job online job portals. Once you have got your job, you need to get sponsorship from the employer who can nominate you, and then you can apply for an employer nomination based visa. Next one is from Nero. What are the chances for an environmental consultant? Well, environmental consultants are being invited by Victoria and NSW, and but the good chances of invite start from 95 points for 491. So you are shy of like 5 points. Maybe you can try to grab another 5 points for better chances of invite in the next financial year for environmental consultant. Next one is from Liu Duke. I have completed my skills assessment. Can you apply visa on behalf of me? What are the charges for it? Please guide me. Yes, we do provide the visa application services, professional services from end-to-end professional services, starting from the skills assessment till visa application. So if any one of you is looking for our professional services, you can send us an email inquiry, and for the email, we what you can do is, Liu, you can send us an email inquiry at Australia Immigration Matters at gmail.com. You can also post a query about this in our group, and we can give you our email address again. Otherwise, you can send us an email inquiry at Australia Immigration Matters at gmail.com to and include your case details in order for us to understand, and on behalf of you, we can definitely submit your visa. And next one is from Sean, engineering technologist. What is invitation for? So engineering technologist, the good chances of invite start from 85 points for 190 and associated points for 491. Mudassir is asking, explain more about transport engineer. States are showing it is skill in demand, but invite ratios are very low. Yes, this is what is happening. So the jobs and skills Australia, it is also showing that many occupations are in shortage, but still the invites are very low. For example, pharmacists are also waiting in the similar manner. So transport engineer is also waiting, but definitely you can stay in the pool and wait for a possible chance of invite, and just stay in the pool for the chances for the next financial year. In this financial year, the chances are low for such non-priority occupation. Next one is from Mohammed Sufyan. Any possibilities for contract administrator in this FY? So contract administrator, the good chances of invite start from like 90 points. 90 points for 190 and 95 points for 491. So contract administrator, you need to score at least like 10 or 15 points for 190 and 10 or 15 points for 491, because this is not a priority occupation. Even program and project administrator is not being invited much. So contract administrator is like after program and project administrator, both are related to infrastructure sector. The next one is from Maharishi Patel. Thanks for the insight. I have one question. Is there any specific duration after which CEO gets notified and checks our file? Yes. So you need to understand that all the visa applications are in queue with the department. So one by one, all the visa applications are being allotted to the case officers, and the case officers take and one case officer take his or her time to process, to confirm the details of each visa application, and they can send the request to the applicant during the visa processing. So typically, when we say that 90% of the visa applications are being processed in 12 months from the date of lodgement, in those 12 months, in the last 1 month or 2 weeks time, the file or the application is being allotted to the case officer. So the next one is from Samir. I am waiting for invitation from October. My occupation is industrial engineering and have points of 60 excluding state points. Is there possibility to receive invitation in this FY? Well, your points are not enough, Samir. You need to improve your points. For industrial engineers, the good chances of invite start from 80 plus points. You are talking about 60 points, so maximum you can have like 75 points for 491, and these are not enough for a possible chance of invite, even in the next financial year. So work on improving your points. So the next one is from Rutaba Rais. My husband is an industrial pharmacist, deputy manager validation, but his qualification is MSc biotechnologist. Is there any possibility to get a positive skills assessment for him? Yes, yes, he can get a positive skills assessment, but all depends upon the work experience. So industrial pharmacist is assessed by vet assess, and they require at least 1 year of post qualification relevant work experience to be eligible for the occupation. Now, when we talk about deputy manager validation, I'm not sure the J what are the JDs. So what you can do is you can post a query about this confusion in our Facebook group, and you can also ask your husband to post the details of his JDs in order to understand that whether the JDs are matching to the nominated occupation of industrial pharmacist. So only after knowing that it is possible to advise whether he can be eligible for industrial pharmacist skills assessment. Next one is from Seva. I have received a positive skill assessment and PTE 60 now and preparing to appear again VTE at end of April. In meantime, I can apply UI and update later with updated mark. Yes, you can submit an UI. If you have 65 or more points for your UI, you can submit an UI and later you can update your UI with improved scores of PTE. That's not a worry. Maliha is asking at what stage do they reach out to employers to validate the relevant experience? Do they call or email, and what are the usual questions they email? So there are two stages at which your employment can be verified. Number one, at the skills assessment stage by the assessing authority, they definitely send an email, and if the email is not responded, they can send a call. They can give a call, and if the call is not responded, they they do not they say that it's not verifiable. At the second stage, the visa during the visa application, once the visa application is allotted to a case officer, the case officer can also call or email the employer for verification. The next one is from Rutaba. How to prepare for an interview with a potential employer as a pharmacist? What questions are usually asked? Well, it's a same type of questionnaire. It's the same type of interview which is possible in your home country as well. So you are applying for relevant jobs in Australia with potential employers as a pharmacist. You need to prepare as per your profile, as per your CV, as per your resume, all the work experience you have. You need to prepare for the interview in the same manner. It's nothing different. It's the same manner. We can take maybe one more question and then we can wrap up. So the last question is from Melbourne Vibes. A partner has more marks than should husband has to withdraw its EOI from skill form 189. No, there is no need to withdraw. Both partners can submit the EOI as primary applicant while having the secondary applicants partner points in their EOIs, and having submitted the EOIs by both the applicants as primary applicants has no impact on each other. These are independent EOIs. No need to withdraw. Just keep the EOIs in the pool and stay hopeful for your respective occupations. With that note, I would like to wrap up today's live question and answer session. I believe we have tried to cover the maximum of the questions posted on our YouTube chat box. But if there is any question which is not answered, you are welcome to post your query in our Facebook group, and we will keep on answering your questions in our Facebook group as we do. Now, in the last 8 minutes, I would like to touch upon two topics. The number one is skills in demand visa, and this is a talk of the town that Australia is introducing a new type of visa category, which is called skills in demand visa, and it may be introduced in the next financial year. Now, the skills in demand visa, it has all to do with the employer the sponsored stream. It has nothing to do with the skilled. It has nothing to do with the skilled migration visa yet. So the skills in demand visa will replace the existing 482 temporary skill shortage visa, but it will have added advantage. The number one advantage would be that on the 482 visa, the employee has to work with the same employer for 2 years in order to be eligible for 186 temporary residence transition, which is a PR pathway for employer nomination scheme. Whereas on skills in demand visa, the employee will not be bound with a single employer to work in his or her nominated occupation for 2 years in order to be eligible for employer nomination scheme 186 TRT stream. So this is one advantage of the upcoming skills in demand visa. Number two, they are going to introduce three pathways for skills in demand visa. Number one will be specialist skills pathway. Number two will be core skills pathway. Number three will be essential skills pathway. As you might have seen that in our Facebook group, in on other channels as well, the core skills occupation list is being published. Now, Jobs and Skills Australia is one of the independent authorities in Australia who has been tasked by the Department of Home Affairs to come up with a finalized skilled occupation list for for this core skills pathway of skills in demand visa. Now what they have done is they have published a draft of core skills occupation list, and they have categorized all the occupations which are related to skills in demand visa in three categories. Number one, confirmed on list. Number two, confidence on list. Number two, confidence off list. And number three is uh, consultation or advised for consultation list. Now, what they will do is they will ask for all the relevant third parties, all the relevant stakeholders to give their feedback about the draft of CSOL list in order to finalize it in next few months. Once it is finalized by Jobs and Skills Australia, they will give this list to Department of Home Affairs. However, you should not be worried whether this list will have any impact on your existing submitted EOIs or if on your occupation, because your occupation for skilled migration purpose for 189, 190, and 491 would still remain valid as per the existing skilled occupation lists, which we call MLTSSL, STSOL, and ROL. These three lists will remain independent from CSOL or any other list which will be introduced under the skills in demand umbrella. So this is one update. And you need to know that the skills in demand visa, we have already posted a video on our YouTube channel about the complete detail about the skills in demand visa. Now, the skills in demand visa and all the relevant pathways which they have introduced and the eligibility criteria for each of the pathways have been discussed and have been shared in our latest YouTube video. You guys are welcomed. You guys should definitely watch it, as the people who are currently onshore in Australia. It can be a useful video for you to understand what is skills in demand visa and what will be the eligibility criteria for each of its pathway. So this is first part of the live question and answer sessions closing note. The second closing note would be about the skilled migration, which is the most important for most of you, majority of you people. So guys, the thing you should know that right now we have already published in our Facebook group that around 80 or 85% of the nomination allocations have been consumed by most of the states. Some states have already closed. For example, Western Australia, Northern Territory, Tasmania has also closed. Only NSW, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, and Canberra, ACT, they will be conducting one or a couple of small rounds, and maybe one round can happen for 189 in the month of May for focus towards the healthcare and education and social services sector. Having said that, now this financial year will be closed in the month of April or maximum in the month of May, as most of the states will have used the allocations by then. The next financial year, there is anticipation that the current Australian government, the Labor government, is under pressure from the opposition, the Liberal government, that all the inflation and housing crisis is because of the overseas net migration, and the overseas net migration has definitely increased in the 1 year time period. Australia's total population has increased by 2.5% in the last, as compared to the last year. So they are worried that how to manage this. So what they will be doing is they have already started strict policies about the temporary visa holders. For example, they have will be tightening the screws, and they will be having higher detail of scrutiny for the student visa applications and for the temporary graduate visas and for the skilled temporary visas, all related to student visa applications and student guardian visa applications. The scrutiny and due diligence will be tighter. However, for skilled migration visas, I believe, and on behalf of Australia Immigration Matters, our analysis say that the trend will remain the same in the next financial year as well. For example, the states will be given a quota and nomination allocations for the next financial year in the month of July. And before that, in the month of April, there will be a draft of budget by the current government in their parliament, which will come on surface in the month of May. So we will have a very clear idea about the planning levels by the month of May for the next financial year, and from there onward we will have a clear idea that whether the skilled migration visa category of will remain the same or will improve in the next financial year. If it will remain the same, you can expect the invitation rounds to be held in the same manner. However, it can improve if they will reduce the nomination allocations for the temporary visas. For example, they can reduce the temporary activities visa, for example 408 COVID visa, they can reduce. They have already made the changes with respect to New Zealand visas. So hopefully the next financial year will be better, and skilled migration visa category will continue its journey in the next financial year as well, because Australia definitely needs the workforce still in some of their states, in some of their sectors, in some of their occupational groups. So they will still keep on continuing this skilled migration visa category. However, having said that, they might be changing the points test system, about which we will be discussing in our next live question and answer session and also in our Facebook group. So with that note, I would like to thank everyone who have joined and participated today in our live question and answer session. Keep supporting us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, by following our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. And whatever questions you might have still unanswered, you are welcome to ask your queries in our Facebook group. We will be definitely be answering your questions. So with that note, good luck, and see you soon in the next live question and answer session.